I thought as we headed into the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States that I should at least provide a little lighter fare, which is not to say that there won't be more serious news tomorrow and that this isn't actually a serious contemporary story. And on Thanksgiving, I do have something edifying instead of some of the generally less happy news I often report on. But this is lighter, but it's not happier either, if that makes any sense. You may have heard this last week that the official Instagram account of Pope Francis, which goes by the handle of Franciscus, quote unquote liked a picture by a young woman that was, well, dressed incredibly immodestly. This caused a lot of discussion on social media, and the kind of jokes that you might expect, but really, in an ideal world, we'd rather not see. Then the story, mostly went away. I didn't even really want to talk about it because, honestly, why? But then it got more interesting because the Vatican decided to look into how it happened. So let's go over the latest on this, and no, I won't be showing you the picture the Pope is said to have liked. That isn't going to happen. I wasn't happy when my Twitter feed suddenly had it showing up because people carelessly shared it despite it clearly being contrary to the 6th and Ninth Commandments, we'll say. Anyway, on November 13th, the official Instagram account of Pope Francis is said to have clicked the little like button on a picture of a woman who is a professional model. She was dressed in a way that plays off both the conventional wisdom of how young Catholic women dress for school, but in a way that must have been, shall we say, very drafty. That was the sum of the story when it first happened, almost 2 weeks ago. And at the time, my thought was that a young seminarian or priest who manages the account likely forgot to log out of the official social media account for Pope Francis when he went on looking for things that he probably shouldn't have been. I didn't think much of it except to think, well, at least this proves that not every seminarian and priest in Vatican City is part of the bridge building project of Pastor Jimmy Martin. Small blessings, I guess. Other than that, I didn't really find the story compelling. Although I did see that some people referenced it when I did a video that week on other topics. Fast forward to this past weekend. On Saturday, the Holy See announced that it's looking into how this happened. Should we be surprised that Francis isn't happy that someone used the papal account to do something like this? I'm not surprised, and frankly, neither should you. From the National Catholic Register, headline: Vatican asks Instagram to investigate like by Pope Francis's account. Pope Francis does not run his own social media accounts, which are overseen by a team. Now, before I get into the meat of the story, I want to actually address that. No, Pope Francis does not run his own social media account. You wouldn't know that looking at the replies he gets on Twitter or Facebook, though. I mean, honestly, people do believe he runs that himself. I personally don't care for Francis's activity on Twitter, not because I think him being there isn't a good idea, but because most of the time the things he tweets are, well, they're not very Francis-like, which is to say, he's not saying much with 240 characters he has available. But anyway, the NCR goes on to say the following. According to the writer, the Vatican has said that no one in the Holy See liked an immodest photograph while logged into Pope Francis's Instagram account, and has requested the Instagram company formally look into how or why such a like appears to have happened. Quote, we can rule out that the like comes from the Holy See, which has turned to Instagram for explanations, the Holy See press office told CNA, November 18th, end quote. The story goes on to give the same account of what happened that I did, except they give you the young woman's name, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to cause some people to go looking for her material on the internet. Again, the lack of care others have had when sharing the story is rather remarkable. But anyway, the story goes on. Quote, the photo was no longer liked on November 14th, shortly after CNA requested comment from the Holy See's press office. At the time, the office declined to speculate about what could have happened. Pope Francis does not run his own social media accounts, which are overseen by a team. It is unclear which devices are used to update the Pope's Instagram and Twitter accounts, and it is also unclear if those who are responsible for updating the Pope's accounts also use personal social media accounts from the same devices. Instagram allows for multiple accounts to be logged in on a single device. Pope Francis does not follow anyone on his Instagram account and has 7.3 million followers. The young woman has 2.3 million followers, and mostly quote. The story goes on to tell us how the young woman, of course, had made hay with getting that like from the Pope, saying she had been blessed by him. Go figure. Weird misunderstandings happen on social media all the time, but this is a whole new level of misunderstanding. I'm amused that they were confident that no one in the Holy See had liked the image in question. I mean, how do they know that? Is it because the bridge building project I keep mentioning has been so successful that the Holy See is sort of the staging ground for James Martin's activities? That many members of the James Martin Brigade are represented in Vatican City to such a level that you might have a hard time finding someone who isn't part of it. Remember, we hear all the time that Vatican City, for the past 30 years, has been the kind of place you'd expect to see banners that remind us of God's promise made to Noah in Genesis, if you catch my meaning. That might be an explanation for why they're so sure it didn't happen, unless the Vatican tech services are just that good at picking up on cell communications using infrastructure from the nearby city of Rome. And honestly, that may be the case too. This is to say nothing about the connections Vatican City has with the city of Rome, the neighboring country, the European Union, or the resources it can bring to bear to find out what happened to Francis's account. You might think that this isn't that big of an issue, but remember, we are talking about accessing Francis's personal information here. Sure, he doesn't use the account himself, but that doesn't mean that whomever did this didn't know that. If they weren't part of the Roman Curia or Vatican Communications Office themselves, which, as I said before, the Vatican internal affairs groups have said that it wasn't accessed from Vatican City, that this activity on Instagram wasn't done by anyone in the Holy See. If that is really the case, then this story just got much, much more dynamic and is definitely worth paying attention to as we move forward. But the interesting part is that Rome has asked Instagram to look into this. For those who don't know, Instagram was bought by Facebook some years ago. It's part of the largest data pool in the world, and Instagram isn't exactly a small operation. Omnicore Agency, an internet data firm, reports that Instagram has 1 billion active users. Compare that to Facebook with its 2.7 billion active total users, and you get an idea of the numbers we're dealing with. If you know anyone who's ever been given the boot off of Facebook, then you know how good they are with data management and geodata, meaning they can find people if they want. Meaning if someone from outside Vatican City accessed the Francisca's Instagram account, we're going to find out soon. Or maybe we'll find out that there's a priest or seminarian in Vatican Communications Office with more conventional taste than we might have thought, though still not in keeping with their place in life. Either way, keep an eye on the story because anytime data in Vatican City comes up in the news, it's always interesting and the unexpected tends to happen. Let me know what you think about this. Like I said, the initial story wasn't that interesting, at least not enough to cover, until the issue of the Pope's personal data came into the story. Regardless of what you think about Francis, you don't want to let papal data be breached like this. I mean, think about that. But anyway, as always, pray for the church, and I do appreciate the support that the members and patrons of the channel have offered. I hope that you go into Advent seeking it to make it as holy as possible. Thanks for listening. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.